Do we need to punch that?
Yeah, just say got it. There you go.
We have to be careful what we
I think so.
it goes that way. Right. Oh. Then you stand up.
I think we're gonna get this for 40 minutes and then it cuts off. The meat wheel. It's only a 40-minute deal unless we want to upgrade, but we're not gonna upgrade because they charge us.
You're kidding me.
Honestly, yeah, so we better get going. Huh?
You're kidding me. Then he showed up.
Mhm. Well, with the day of, the notice comes the day of, I mean, are you kidding?
Hi, can you guys hear us out there?
Or here, we can hear you.
The tall boys and Jerry and Dennis? Okay,
Yes.
Yeah.
great. Okay, thank you.
It's a way to turn that. One, so we have no control.
I only could turn it up once.
Okay, everybody, let's get rolling. It's my pleasure to be here tonight with you and talk to you not just about your neighborhood, but some of the things going on around your neighborhood. Trying to answer some questions up front, and then we'll be here later in case you have more questions. So, and when I say we, I'm introducing Jerry from our city engineer's office.
There's somebody in the waiting room.
Because there's somebody in the waiting room. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Yeah, if you could help me with Zoom, that'd be great, because I would like to
Yeah.
look at it instead. Great. I'm glad that we can do both, that we can accommodate both. That's a good thing. We haven't done this since 2021, and it's a good exercise to go through. And I have quite a few slides. I have about 10 slides about the status of the neighborhood. We've had a lot of questions and concerns about the fences and the storm damage and that type of thing. So that's very serious, can help me out with that. And I have an interesting 3 or 4 slide presentation on what happens to your neighborhood when it rains. It happens 3 times since I've been here. Thank you. Okay, there we go. Great. Hi, welcome. Why don't you get on?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to our friends in Zoom. So this is my 3.5 years as city manager. And I come from the city of Salinas, and I've been working in local government for 35 years. I have a graduate degree and a member of the International City Managers Association, and that's a professional code of ethics that I follow. So people can talk to me all they want, but that's my guideline. So we can run as professional at City Hall as we can. And this is part of it, sharing information with the community, getting into dialogue so that you understand what's happening, not only to your own neighborhood, but within the rest of the community. So I'm going to share my screen and get into my slideshow soon. Welcome to Jackie Morris and Mayor Jordan.
Hey, everyone.
Thanks for sneaking in. Sent out the text about a half hour ago. So I'm glad that worked out. So hold on a minute here. I'll share my screen and we'll get right to business. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Well, he said we should be careful now that we actually have a forum.
Oh, I'm sorry, EJ. I first met EJ in one of these meetings. Before he was a council member, so I don't think it clicked.
So we can't talk anything about this then? All right, I'll leave it alone.
They can say
There we go. Okay. So for those of you who are here in 21, there's a few duplicate slides. And some of these slides are dated, I admit. This sign gets a lot of attention. People think they're in the city of Rancho. So that's it. Yeah. So we've gone through introductions. We're going to talk about flooding and repairs today, the status of various developments, and then the bulk of the meeting is going to be about your Mellow Roofs District, the CFD zone community facilities district that you pay into when you pay your property tax, and what we use that money for, and what the status of that accounting is. So the flooding and other damages that we incurred both in March and on New Year's are not unusual. We had similar flooding back in December of 2022. And we've learned through studying that this area was built for a 10-year flood, which is unheard of. It should be built for a 50 or 100-year flood. So, but before I jump into that, I just want to assure you that we have a contractor who's going to show up Wednesday to fix the retaining wall and fencing on Trailside. And while they're here, we've asked them to take a look at the fencing and the truck damage on First Street near the roundabout. And then we're going to go through some slides right now on your storm system out there. The storm system's responsibility, who's responsible for it right now, and the cities work with FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Administration. Because we have declared a state of emergency, we're eligible, and individuals are eligible as well, especially for the March flooding. And to my surprise, I understood the south side of Salinas was hurting. We had a lot of evacuations there in the Mission Farms RV Park. But believe it or not, I'm surprised that one of your neighbors on First Street lost his roof and a fence and has a big individual claim into FEMA. And that's an interesting, in talking with them, the Edwards, she reported to me that she filed her claim with FEMA and she was rejected because she has insurance. And because she's in their system, she reported back, this is what insurance will pay for, and FEMA's gonna pick up the balance. So don't take no for an answer. You have to advocate for yourself and then let us know if we can help you with that. I don't know that any of you filed a claim, but I just wanted to touch bases on that.
Number one.
Taking questions.
Yeah,
For number one, there's also damage by the park too. Is that also trail side?
by the,
So I didn't.
That includes
That includes the park area, that's what we're talking about, the retention bond.
Yeah, no, that's not part of this initial, based on what we assessed, based on how those came out of the footing. We're gonna have to do an engineer design to remedy that, so we're, because we haven't accepted, the city hasn't accepted it yet, the development yet. We're trying to work with the American folks to see about developing a design that will withstand any kind of storm that we have, which will run on those other potential bonds and then go we want. So more to follow.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So Meritage posted more than $1 million in bonds for all the public improvements. We've accepted a few pieces. We accepted the roundabout to let your neighbors in the way says off the hook so they can. The big subdivision, but we have not accepted the storm improvements yet for obvious reasons. So when FEMA comes to us, we do share the damages with them and bring them to their attention. But they're not going to be offering assistance to the city. They'll offer it to Meritage, I suppose. So the Meritage is in the loop, and so these repairs are taking a little longer. But the city engineer is studying the situation. And so I just wanted to share these slides were shared with the city council, how the flooding comes from two different sources, and you may be aware of this. For some reason, this creek was not designed to take this water, and so it runs right behind these properties here. Caused a lot of erosion back in here, did cause the evacuation of this caretaker's trailer there. And we've had some other issues here, of course. Believe it or not,
That's
the
Meritage.
development was built in 2004, 2006, and its storm drainage goes underneath Rancho Vista storm drainage to this trench and then out. And so you've probably noticed how this pipe was exposed by some of this erosion. They put the Rancho Vista program right on top of it.
Is that pipe ever gonna get, pipe ever gonna get cleaned out? Was that installed during the American building or the other?
The pipe that's under here is part of it's in Creek Bridge.
Oh, wow.
Yes, caretaker.
Is there, number one, it said, going back, it said trail side retaining wall, so is there a retaining wall that's being, rather than
This is showing the flow of the water, how,
What's the red?
It's right here near the cul-de-sac.
Got it.
By a truck.
What area?
Is there, we're looking at potential.
maybe that didn't flow.
It's not near.
I'm gonna go and put it in red.
It's like course of car, there's no retaining wall.
Oh, there's a
Not at the bottom of the cul-de-sac, the part where I got hit by a car.
yeah, there's a walking trail down here.
Can you let me in and then make me a co-host so that I can just manage this for you?
Sure. Let me go. Where are you?
You have to stop sharing, I think, to get to the waiting room.
Probably two neighbors down. There. The one
They're
that
not
broke.
the light.
Yes, I think I'm in the right room. I don't think this is gonna work for my phone. We'll just have to keep pointing.
Okay.
I think we're good for now.
Yeah, I think we're good for now.
Yeah. I know you're finding, why do you think that the RTP pipe keeps getting with so much sediment in it, and it pops everything?
Because this is the natural creek bed here,
Uh-huh.
and the silt is able to flow underneath this bridge and down from this whole creek side. And this flow starts on the other side of 156. There's two big reservoirs back in there, and they pop out, and when they pop out, it's just a faucet right down into your neighborhood. And so it's got the ability to pick up silt all the way from before the 156 and bring it all the way down to this pipe.
Should that be a maintenance thing?
Yes, it should be. And when we looked into it initially, we needed to bring our biologist on board and make sure that we had the right oversight. But now FEMA has, and Fish and Game have loosened up in the state of emergency, the regulation. So we're in contact with Granite Construction to come out and remove silt in those areas where it's clearly our responsibility.
What is the timeline? We can look for that.
I'm not sure,
Question.
yeah, we haven't, I'm
What's
sorry,
your timeline for addressing
the silt removal,
the changes? Yeah.
Which shape are you asking?
so the silt removal related to the. blue-
Oh, so we're working with, we reached out to Granite, we're trying to secure Granite. We have a window, where all the standard requirements from the EPA and everything about the, big diggers.
I don't understand.
Over
Yeah.
the pass.
I hope you can hear
I'm
that.
gonna for my tummy.
We're coordinating right now, to get Granite going there, and start doing, I don't wanna call it dredging, because that's a little bit.
Yeah.
But to start to clear out the silt.
Got it.
When do you think it's going?
I don't have it yet. I haven't seen
This year, you think?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Oh, yeah, no.
definitely.
This summer for
It's
sure.
next
I'm talking it's in the next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have finite time almost per FEMA, so.
Use it or lose it.
Use it or lose it.
Got it. Thank you.
Somebody else tried to get it.
Okay, stop share.
Let me try this.
I don't see someone trying to get in, EJ.
It should be Wyatt.
Yes, it's just, that's.
I should get that command on here. I should be able to share the screen and let people in.
Can I turn the waiting room off? Do we care?
Yeah, you can turn the waiting room off. I don't care,
Okay, let me try.
but I should be able to go into participants here and have it, right?
Yeah, I'm just gonna turn it off so we can.
Says that council member on our IT departments.
No, that's what Jose does. Jose, I need help.
Jose does.
What? Is it working?
I can't turn the waiting room off.
You're gonna have to end the meeting and then change the settings.
Oh, I'm not doing that.
No, okay.
It won't-
I didn't see anybody waiting. Is somebody waiting?
There's nobody in the waiting room, Jose.
That's weird, yeah, I don't know, I'll tell why it's like check the link again.
Okay. So I don't know, if you guys were, if you actually witnessed this, the way it came over the top of the street. It was pretty dramatic. And this is what the inundation looks like. And this is where it flooded even before the development was built. So all they did was control it to get around the development. And in that regard, it pretty much worked. I'm not aware of anyone's house being flooded. So, that's okay. But these are the observations from our engineering firm, M&S, that Jerry works with. That the capacities were exceeded, obviously. There's a pinch point at the pedestrian bridge there by the roundabout. The stormwater generally stayed within the basins, rivers and streets, which is something we just mentioned. The maintenance issues include these things that I think we're all aware of. The creek channel full of sediment, Third Street culvert partially occluded, creek culvert fully occluded, and the creek channel along Lavandino. So these are the same slides that we shared with FEMA, and so that they're aware of all of these concerns. They seem to support our efforts to make sure that they're fixed. Damage to the creeks and banks, the spillway fence, the road parkways and others. So because it's part of this natural disaster. Yes,
You said that no one's house flooded, so everything was okay, but I kind of disagree, and I'm not saying someone's house flooded. But there was a few houses I seen that became islands, and I live on Third Street. And in order to leave, you have to drive your vehicle through, water about this deep. which is damaging vehicles, you know, and we don't get free vehicles, none of us here. And then the property that's behind us, I mean, that guy, their house was basically an island. I don't know how they're supposed to get out there.
I watched them evacuate, my car was out there too.
Oh, okay, so yeah, I don't know if you're representing the people or a company or what. I mean, I just got here, but I'm just.
Oh, I work for your city council, the people you voted for, and they can hire firemen.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm just
That's not
saying.
gonna happen tonight.
It could happen next Tuesday.
When our house becomes an island and we can't leave, I mean, I think that's a problem.
Well, no, I'm not,
Yeah.
that's a problem. I am sorry, I didn't mean to take that lightly. We had people who had to live in a hotel for 10 days on the other side of town, and so I don't mean to compare.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for pointing that out.
And excuse me, to piggyback from your point, are we taking notes on information?
And this is being recorded, the meeting's being
Okay,
recorded.
perfect, perfect.
That way, if your neighbors
Sure,
can
that was a
attend,
good point.
we can refer them. That way they can share this on the web with people.
Okay.
Because there's 82 homes out there. So the observations and then the recommendations. We were in the midst of a hydraulic study, a peer review of the as-built system out there when this event occurred. So we're following through to complete that. The rainfall intensities and the atmospheric river events determined if this was a 50-year flood, a 75-year flood, so that we understand what capacity needs to be built to identify weaknesses and determine specific recommendations. So we haven't finished this work yet, but we're just acknowledging that this is work that our engineering team needs to do. The maintenance needs to be done as well, and so we've already learned that we're in touch with Granite Rock, and we hope to do that in the next, at least within the next month, depending on their schedule. Remove excess sediment in creek channels and selectively thin vegetation.
Do you think this, what you're planning on doing is gonna prevent 129 from flooding over?
No, I don't, because the Mannings own the ranch behind your development. And what I witnessed driving to Prescott between Rancho Vista and Prescott is that water is coming right through their ranch and then right over the top of the road. That's what I saw.
And past basically the end of our development,
Yeah,
past that, and went further north, that's kind of problem.
yeah,
So
that's it.
This is the end of the city.
Incorporated
So that's
boundaries.
San Benito County, so how do we get that addressed?
We work with the Public Works Director, Steve Blue. And in fact, he's the one that had Granite Rock on contract. You might have seen them cleaning that channel between New Year's and March. And that same contract allowed them to help us out with the Alameda. We had all kinds of mud and stuff. So that was right after the event. So we're sharing resources and I think we're working.
That is.
Better than we used to anyway, County Public Works.
You said you contract with Granite when they were dredging that little.
I know this one is the one down there they're gonna do
We should have been dredged back in.
down that way.
Back where the water flows.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
I
That was
understand.
deferred maintenance.
Well, and there are issues with digging in an area with threatened species. And that's environmental permits and incidental dig permits and working with Fish and Game and US Fish and Wildlife.
No, there's a state and federal.
Okay,
They each get.
Unfortunately, it's just easier. It doesn't make it's not common sense.
right,
It's easier to wait until there's an emergency because all these permitting process kind of.
yeah,
Right, he was saying that. That when the flooding occurred, it's like you can just go ahead and do it without.
After they open the.
After they say.
After they.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but what I'm thinking is the city should have saw that beforehand. 'Cause I worked for the city of San Jose, we always read about all those trees and cleaned up that kind of stuff way before it's storm. On a regular basis.
Right, that's what you generally do.
So I brought it up to the city. I went over there and talked to them about it. I said, when are you guys gonna finish these trees? When the storm hits, it's all gonna back up and flood everybody.
That's the ones you're.
We're not gonna touch that because.
We're talking about that, they are the ones that are being paid by the city.
So we,
Ones in San Jose are the ones that you're talking about that are being paid by the city. That one, when it involves fish and wildlife, sometimes permits could take 3,
oh,
4.
no, I know,
10
and
years.
even in the city of San Jose, it's not. But I'm just saying, it should, kind of like, knowing how long it takes to, get permits or necessary.
And then we do have approval, we're not allowed to actually scoop the soil, but we're allowed to cut the greens. Because the endangered species in that creek are in the water, so there are, we did get approval to do that, but you're right, that should be done in the fall before it rains.
Hey, Don, my question is, yeah, obviously we have all these stormwater issues and we gotta come up with a better way of being proactive. But one issue that I don't see like being mentioned or talked about is what do we do when something like this does happen overnight? Like that night, that day when I woke up, like I live on 1190 Vista. And our house, the water was up like half our driveway, right? And you know, Morgan and I were asleep. Like when something like this happens, we didn't get a text, there wasn't an emergency, something, a notification, hey, like the water is up to your driveway. Should we start talking about evacuating? How do you get out? Like, you know, someone mentioned here, there was someone that's like, I was on an island, I had to drive. And what if this was a real case scenario of a major flood event and we needed to evacuate? There was no exit, there was no instruction from the city. Like, is there a text message alert or an email that can go out that says, hey guys, there's a threat here? Perhaps, and then this doesn't apply just to like flooding, but also for fire emergencies. Like when we had that fire in Aromas that was coming down the hill, it also was just kind of like, well, what are we, or should we start prepping to evacuate? Like, is the city working on something to kind of have like an emergency plan for evacuations or alerting their residents when something like this occurs?
I can speak to organizations again, service. We're actually in the process of working that out for the safety plan with the city, correct?
Well, that's a component of it, Councilmember. But the quicker and stronger answer is in January, we adopted a brand new hazard mitigation plan, which had a scenario for earthquakes, fires, and floods and even pandemics. And we are part, and we weren't in the past, but we're very well connected now with the County Office of Emergency Services. And they use a Nixle system to broadcast. So what we need to do is, what we need your help doing, in fact, is making sure that the residents have that app on their phone. And you'll be driven crazy by all the messages you get, you know, in Tres Pinos or whatever, it's countywide. But that's the first thing I would do in that case, as I would call the County Office of Emergency Services, and I brought these issues to their attention right away. We talked about setting up a shelter with the Red Cross. We were working hand in hand with them. So if that happens and the council member's gonna get my butt out of bed, then I'll do that. And I'll call Chris Mangano, the director of the County Office of Emergency Services, and she can put that message out and broadcast it. It comes to the sheriff's department.
Do they have the
Yeah, write down whatever you want.
Yeah, subdivision.
let's say,
Probably get a file.
get a flood happening,
When it's over.
which will be out all night, you know, basically monitoring, or I'm just, I don't know if we do here or not.
They wait for citizens to just call in.
Because it sounds like we actually have that in process, we actually been having it. And we actually have designated people who will go out and monitor certain areas of either creeks or whatever. And they're there all night for 10 hours a night and working shift to monitor, because then the dispatch, the emergency dispatch, they can send alerts to homeowners or knock on doors or, you know, certain things like that.
Well, that's a good suggestion. We have two ways of doing that. We have our private security patrolling as many as 2 officers at one time, and so they can keep an eye on it for us. And then we have our 24-hour phone message of Public Works, which gets the Public Works engaged, and they know how to find me, and I always answer their call. That's as sophisticated as we are.
I'd like to sit down with you one day and kind of show you what we do there. And there's certain levels that creek beds get to, and we start monitoring the blue, green, yellow, and red phases. And once we get to a yellow to red, we start knocking on doors.
Well, there's a lot we can do to improve that.
I just putting out something.
Does that answer?
Yeah, I just want to be proactive.
Sure.
And just make sure like we're all safe when something like this happens.
That's a good point.
Hey, it sounds like we're gonna start seeing this quite often, you know, so.
And Don Reynolds on there is the man
we see
who
that,
head of the meeting.
like you said, have securities.
You might be right. Don Reynolds is the person who did the meeting.
So when the water's at the same height, the line will go up.
It's Donnell.
Did folks on the Zoom call have any questions about
Do
the
you have
flood?
a question? No, I do not.
Not yet.
Yeah, okay, okay, thank you.
So is that in the budget to install something like?
Yes, I have a question.
No, it's not. Yes, go ahead.
Do we need to raise hand or we can talk?
Please talk. I can hear you.
Okay, so you're talking about building homes in the back here, right?
We have an application to annex into the city to build homes there. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a developer interested in doing that.
So I don't know how far down the future you're looking as far as flooding and how the weather's gonna be. But I mean, I don't know if we allow this and allow you to build, and if it's gonna be a natural disaster on our insurance or where they don't cover us and all that kind of stuff because it's flooding. I think what you did here, we built our houses here like putting the cart before the mule, to where we're downhill. And we've already seen the slightest little increase in water, how it's flooding our area. So now you're talking about, you know, I haven't seen the infrastructure. That's what I have to see as far as what you're gonna do as far as in the long run to get the water. I think it should go the other way out to the freeway. But if you build homes there and you continue to have the water come this way, I think we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah.
I understand your concerns. When the developer proposes the development, it's subject to our California Environmental Quality Act review. And they'll have to record something called a FIRM, F-I-R-M map, which is approved or not approved by the state of California. And that's the map that determines your insurance rates for property insurance. And if you can't record the map, you can't build the project. So they're gonna have to mitigate in a big way, like you said, maybe retention ponds that are twice as large as the ones in Rancho Vista. I don't know. But before the project gets approved, these matters have to be addressed by the law. The state law is there to protect you.
Yeah. I don't want to end up like Cavero, you know, and have all this water coming in here and nobody's going to do nothing about it. And it's all put on us.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Don, I have another question. Kind of piggybacking off this gentleman. It's just a concern I've heard from just like walking around. And one of them was, it was something that Morgan and I wanted to look at, but if we wanted to get flood insurance, just because we, you know, just the way things got, I've heard that there's been some residents that actually reached out to their insurance companies and they've been rejected for the flood insurance because that area is not considered a floodplain. And so how can the city help us, like, consider that a floodplain to help us get the insurance if we wanted to do so, but also not impacting people where if they don't want it, they're having to pay for it, right? Like, I think we should still have the option whether to have it or not, but that's what I'm hearing. We're on the block, but I don't know if anyone else is having that issue, but
And try to get flood insurance.
yeah, that we can't because it's not a floodplain, and so now what?
I think it is an option.
Is it an option?
If it is considered floodplain, we don't have to get flood insurance and live. You know, on the floodplain, and I didn't get it.
Okay.
Usually the mortgage company that requires that.
No,
You're not
I'm
considered
talking
a
about-
floodplain, yeah, they're saying some insurance companies are rejecting
I understand that.
that because we're not. So does the city need to do something for us to say, hey, look, we've even had FEMA come through here, this is a floodplain. How do we address that? Yeah,
So I'm not familiar with all of the technical details, but that would be a product from our city engineer in reviewing those firm maps as they apply to your current property. And you're right with the new proof. I mean, God forbid one of those reservoirs crashed right up the hill. We've been really hurting. So then the 156 becomes the next reservoir, the next dam. So, so I'll have to get back to you, and Jerry is taking notes, so I'm hoping you'll follow up with the city engineer on that. And we'll send a follow-up letter out after this meeting, trying to respond to some of your questions. Okay, moving on to other related issues. On Tuesday, the city council approved an agreement with the city of Hollister to receive our wastewater, which is one of the final steps in decommissioning our wastewater treatment plant, which is your neighbor there in Rancho Vista. So we're going to begin construction soon. We're out to bid for an $18 million contract to send the wastewater to Hollister. And then we're going to be working in earnest to import fresh water, 65% blended with our groundwater. So the quality of your of your drinking water should improve dramatically, and that'll also reduce the salt content. So these projects are moving forward. They're taking a while. We spent a good 3.5 years on them. They're finally coming to fruition. So I wanted to share that with you. Because we did a recent survey of the community, and water still rates as the #1 issue in our city. So wanted to make sure that you guys knew that we're still moving forward on that. We have a number of policies that may affect your neighborhood. The state has made it very easy to put in accessory dwelling units in the small, what we used to call granny flats in the back of your property. So it's easier to do that. You may see these popping up. There's issues on short-term rentals. We are taxing those with transit occupancy tax. So, and we do have a company on board to monitor the advertisements for our short-term rentals, so we can make sure that we can identify them and make sure that they're in line. Working for your home could be considered a home occupation, and you should be aware of that if you're using your home as an office. So there are rules related to home occupations. Obviously, we don't want people storing hazardous materials and 55 trucks a day. That type of thing. So the purpose of the home occupation rules are to make sure that your neighborhood remains a residential neighborhood. But we're not just saying no, because obviously after the pandemic, working from home, for myself, in fact, tomorrow afternoon, there's a really hard thing to do. So, so I just want to bring that to your attention. We are finally restarting our urban growth boundary committee, and that's important for you because you are on the edge of our urban growth boundary. It's a map called the sphere of influence, and it defines which properties, which parcels the city would like to have in its sphere of influence. And so we've been working on this for about 1.5 years, and I think we're just about ready to present to LAFCO a final map that shows what we hope is a more controlled growth. The current situation can allow very fast, rapid growth. And so we're trying to get LAFCO and the local agency formation commission with an application to establish a tighter circle around our city so it doesn't grow out of control.
We would want to address #1 first.
Yes, well, so fortunately, I worked for the city of Moore Park for 12 years before I came here, and I was one of 7 employees where I wore about 20 different hats. And when I came here, I thought, okay, we're going to wear 20 different hats again. I have help. I have an assistant who helps me with these projects. 3rd Street Master Plan is also something we're working on slowly but surely. We have a grant application in for a multimodal transportation hub there on the Alameda. That would be the anchor of our 3rd Street, and we're working every day with our business owners and trying to coordinate and get them ready for a redo of our 3rd Street and ultimately the disposition of the parklets. We had a lengthy council meeting a month ago about the disposition of parklets, allowing them to stay until December 31st, 2023. So that's the status of that. I don't get as many questions as I used to about elite homes. So I'll tell you, we talk to this developer once a year when their grass is too high. They own the hillside next to the wastewater treatment plant. And this is entitled, which means that they have recorded a map that says that they can put in so many homes up there on that hillside, and you need to be aware of that because eventually it'll come and it shouldn't be a surprise. The Loaiza subdivision I referenced on the other side of the property is a very small 4 residential unit subdivision. That map has been signed by the city engineer. Now that the roundabout is completed and the property they dedicated for the roundabout is all wrapped up. And I think as we mentioned before, we're winding things up with Meritage. They're not off the hook yet, and they're still in the neighborhood helping us complete your development.
I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
Is Rancho Vista considered San Juan Bautista?
Yeah. You're within our-
Because I've been told from people that work in the maintenance department that their job ends at the water treatment plant, and Rancho Vista is a separate community. So that's why we're paying, you know, for the
Rancho Vista is what?
roundabout, and they don't come past the water treatment plant because we're a private community. So I just wanna know why am I being told that? And that's why I'm asking, are we considered part of San Juan? Bautista?
Absolutely.
That person was known.
So that was absolutely in City Hall. So that was.
Well, council member, you couldn't be
So
elected.
part of what they might be talking about, there's been a lot of communication with regards to how people say things, especially if you're like trying to work with that. The big point of emphasis from the city council, how messaging is delivered.
That was from the city manager himself.
That's good.
I don't recall saying that.
What's your name?
Don.
No.
Brian.
Brian. Who? What's his name? Vouch or something? Yeah, Vouch.
So part of the miscommunication might be our city employees are not in charge of like landscaping in Rancho. That's covered under our melodies, our light poles, things like that, very specific things.
So what
Yes,
is
you
it?
understand.
Yeah, me too. It's blurry,
Okay, so
vibrates, you can't hear.
we are considered San Juan Bautista.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be able to be on the city council if I didn't live in the city.
I mean, that's what was confusing to me.
Yeah,
For information, that's why.
That's
Yeah,
down
yeah,
there.
specifically what you were asking for, and that's.
This is down there, I think.
Roundabout where we go out. You mean?
No, not here. See, that's where the tree they took down. Remember the big elm tree there? They
Yeah.
took that down.
That's where they want to roundabout.
Yeah.
So it's not where the flood area is on that first
Down
intersection.
that way.
So what is the landscaping and all that stuff?
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, let me get there.
I got a question to think about that.
Good point, so it's a good point.
We have a number of issues to work on with the roundabout. Obviously, you're aware that the trucks finally do decide to turn around and then they can't and they plow right over the top of it. This is the piece of. Okay. Bye-bye.
Those are some of the things that are not considered. Trucks.
Oh, they could be, they're not considered trucks, sir? I can hear you.
They're not considered when they put the roundabout in. They know they're active here. And whoever done the plan and put that in, it's not adequate.
That would be
And
the
the trucks are
section
still gonna come through.
next to the water plant this side.
Right.
Mhm.
Right, so we're doing our best to manage that. There's less problem, less frequently an issue now than there was when it first went in. We're working with both Taylor Farms and the other growers there to make sure that their distribution companies are aware of the restrictions of coming through town. And we're trying to improve commercial truck enforcement, but we need to get our laws in better shape so we can do that, a better job of that, so.
Yeah, one last thing I would like to address is that, you know, if you do build homes behind us and everything, you know, that's gonna force all the little critters and everything our way. And that's another problem we'll have to deal with, which we've already experienced just by moving here.
Right. Right, understood, understood. And pretty soon, if not already, you're gonna get your share of snakes.
Yeah, and just one, if I may, just one last thing to all of you there that it wouldn't be a bad idea. Maybe we all get together and get our own lawyer, you know, to look into this for us. Because, I mean, we're homeowners. We go to work every day and you know, we're trying to pay for our homes and everything. But I think we might need a little help on this to make sure everything's on the up and up.
Does the neighborhood have a homeowners association?
I don't think we have a homeowners association here,
We do not.
which, you know,
No, some developments require that a homeowners association be formed.
yeah. But we don't, so maybe we should get somebody to speak for us that know what's going on, that can read, you know, the small print.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well. Have that. So are there any questions or I guess everyone knows the status of the roundabout. This is Third Street and, sorry.
I noticed, talking about the trucks, I noticed the sign they put over there to not crossing. I think it's too far away. They have to move it
Doesn't print it so much.
this way, but the street.
Too bad it doesn't work.
Print
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Past that one.
See, 27 single family, 4,000 square feet, trail side.
Before or after the street entrance.
That's darn big.
I think it's better. for
20, that's bigger than any of these houses here.
Guys, when you come this way here.
4,000 square feet.
That,
I think that's one of the problems.
not the size of the home, is that the lot?
That would be what he's referring to, single
See,
family.
here's the roundabout here.
Right.
What I'm just saying to you is that
Clara,
27 single family homes
Mhm.
at 4,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Those are big homes.
If that's the case, yeah.
Those would be what I would call
Nice.
family homes.
Oh my God, yeah.
What?
I hope they're not twin homes.
right into the windmill, you know, there's a lot of times that-
No, it's a single family.
How do we get also the issue of getting 129?
Theory.
Because that road is.
That would bring your values up.
Stripes at night, you can't see, there's no buttons on the center.
Because if you're talking something that
Mhm.
big, you're gonna be talking a heck of a lot more.
Yeah,
I've talked to our county manager about that, and he said it's gonna be another two to 3 years before you.
Well,
They have,
the shark will come soon, so they
That
have
might
to use the budget.
be the one he's talking about before.
Yeah, I had a conversation with him today. And he says that road has been in the budget and it was removed because there was other roads in town that needed, like San Juan Highway, that there's a focus on. I mean, not San Juan Highway, the other side, San Juan Canyon, going up the Fremont. There's roads like that are in further disrepair than ours. And so the one thing that they voted, the county voted to remove that. But the one thing that they did bring back, because there was some funds left, was to do the striping. And I think we're gonna be seeing the striping come first. And then there'll be an emphasis on trying to repair that road, especially by your side. But right now, it's still not on the list to be done, and I don't think it'll be this year, and I don't.
This for 4,000 square foot house at our square footage price would be.
Okay.
They're like, very awful, it's a band-aid, but it's just like I forget how much. God, don't quote me on the numbers, it might be 12 or 28 million that they got, and it was already allocated for other roads in the county that were even worse than what our road is. And because trust me, I've been calling that one in. and
What's condition 27 and 28?
I don't know.
Wide and Third.
That's for the roundabout in White and Third.
Yeah. What's wide and put around.
You can't see it at night, you're driving through fog or.
I've seen cars in those ditches.
Yeah,
like, multiple times.
yeah, so that I can answer that one for today, but.
Yeah, you have high school kids driving out there.
Right.
So
There's a bike lane, believe it or not.
Okay, here, this is the elite home thing. This is their, it's called Rancho Vista.
Yeah.
This is
Okay,
their
here we go.
tentative name.
Okay, so, the community facilities district that you're in has two zones. The first zone is Copperleaf, the new development on the other side of 156. And you are zone 2. It was created as a part of the Community Facilities Act of 1982. And the intention is to establish a financing tool to pay for the maintenance and the special needs of a specific community. So that includes the public assets in your neighborhood. It's voted for and approved by a majority of the property owners. And developers generally do that when there's only one property owner and they vote for it themselves. And then they get their map approved and subdivided. So that.
Can you name what those assets are that are?
Yes, we're getting there. We're getting there. Based on services to be, okay, so there's something called a formation report. And the formation report looks like this, and it's available on our website. And so it goes back to 2018. And it has all the definitions and details in it and I'll share some of those with you now. Because it's important to understand how the district was conceived and formed, to understand how it's working today. So here's your track map. And these are the different parcels, the 85 parcels that are part of Rancho Vista. Here's the Creek Bridge development off to the east there.
Five parcels.
And that's the basis for the math that goes into
No,
how
no,
much
no.
each parcel will
This
pay.
is only 27 homes.
No, but he said Rancho Vista.
Oh, that's all.
And this is
Yeah,
the,
in
this is
here.
the table of contents of that. It talks about the budgets for the CFD, and these are all estimates done back in 2018. So there's the district boundary map, and then there's the special tax roll that shows each parcel and the amount that they expect to be paid. So this is a list of services that can be paid for with your community facilities district. All the landscape maintenance, that's the thing you see happening most often. Park maintenance, the recreational equipment, but it also includes in your neighborhood, the street and sidewalk maintenance, and that's significant because these assets, although they have a long life, are very expensive to maintain over time. Curb and gutter maintenance, street lighting, storm drain maintenance. So that's an issue why we haven't accepted that yet. And then sound wall maintenance in case there's an accident or a landslide or something. The fencing is something we touched bases on earlier, graffiti abatement and mosquito abatement. It also includes the lift station out there that leads to our sewer system. Sound fence.
No, I'm asking.
Yeah, but properly.
Mosquito abatement, yeah.
So this is,
That's under the Malarouche, not under the property tax.
Yeah, this is what they're
And
talking
then
about.
these
That's
are some of
Melrose
those
we're talking
assets.
No, I understand, but I'm
We
just
do have,
wondering,
obviously, we've already talked about. the
qualifying,
air
it's not
conditioning
under it,
and
it's under your
the
taxes,
playground,
but
and
it's
next to the
not
lift station,
under
corner there.
the taxes, it's under the Malarouche.
And the sidewalks. And just to make the distinction, in the yellow, these are open space and they have the certain restrictions and type of maintenance. And then the blue is what we're paying, the assessment.
That's us there,
So, these are the landscape strips, where you find the gang boxes for the post office, and those places. So that's definitely a general description of where the landscaping is, and you know it better than I do. It looked like this in 2021, doesn't look like this now. So we can see what little flooding and a few years of wear and tear can do. This has certainly changed since the storms. And these are the original budgets. So the original budgets are important because they estimated back then that your annual maintenance was going to be 35,000. And that you should be operating on these reserves. And they estimate putting into the capital reserve about $48,000 a year. And that the annual budget should be about $92,000. And what we've learned is that that's a really high number. So the original assessments that went out in 2019 to, I think, 52 homes at the time were at that recommended rate, and it was way too high. So that's the good news for you guys. This capital reserve annual installment of $48,000 is really high. It's more than half of what your $92,000 annual budget was supposed to be. So you have 37 street lights, the sound walls, pardon me, the fencing, the sidewalks and streets, all that is included. And this is what your capital reserve is supposed to look like. You're supposed to be putting away about 28,000 for the streets and sidewalks, about $3,000 a year for the street lighting, and then the landscape improvements for 48. When we looked at this, the original 18-19 estimate was that your CFD is going to cost you $1,091 a year. And this is the base number. That's the maximum that the city can ask you to pay for your services out there. And then it's subject to cost of living increases. So in 2019, 2020, it was up to $1,100, and now it's up close to $1,200. That's a maximum amount, and we don't have to charge that much because we've been able to find some economies in here, and we'll get to what's actually better news. In 2021, the assessment was reduced from 1130 down to 678 because this was just too high. We could have billed 1155.97, which would have been a 2% increase, but instead we took it down to 678.32. In 2020, 21-22, a small increase equal to the cost of living.
6, I don't see it on there.
78. So we went from about $90 there, and projected revenue of 65,000. We could have billed almost $1,200, and that would have yielded $101,000 in reserves, which is twice what they recommended. So right now, last year, we didn't provide an increase at all. We just kept it stable. We didn't have a meeting last year either. So so we have the same revenue from year to year of 65,000. And in 22-23, we have expenditures of about 39,000 with no reserves. So that means we're putting the difference into your reserves. So that's about 25,000 for that year. And as you can see, your fund balance out there, this is all kept in a special place. It can only be used in your neighborhood. So since we've been doing this, we started out with a $52,000 fund balance. We've increased it to 86. And this, at the end of next year, we expect it to be about 108,892. So the fund balance is growing at a healthy pace, which is good. And then here's the status of your current budget. This might be a little different than the handouts I sent out electronically, tried to get to you because I'm still updating numbers and working on my budget myself. So when I sent out the expenses, we didn't have any personnel salaries. We allocate 5% of the public works director out there. He manages the Smith and Enright landscape contract. So we budget about 4,900 for that. We have a transfer to the general fund to pay for the administration. We're allowed a 15% allowance for that, pays for me and our finance department and others. We have a budget for electricity and landscaping services. And then the street maintenance, which we haven't paid any of. So we have a line item there in case we have a problem with the street, but we haven't had to use it. So we're coming in at about 36,000. We budgeted about 40,000. And last, we estimated contributing 25,000 to your reserve. Looks like we're going to be able to contribute closer to 30,000 to your reserve because we're saving money out there. The original estimates for the grounds and maintenance were over $30,000, and Smith and Enright is providing those services for 24,000. At the last meeting, we had complaints about the landscaper. It wasn't fixing sprinklers, wasn't doing other things, and I hope that's improved. I'd like to hear some feedback of any complaints or concerns about the way that the trees and the grass and the other things are being maintained. Are they respectful?
We have some dead trees on
Yes.
top of, that have not come back, even with all the rain that we've received, but really do need to come down. They
Dead
were
trees?
pushing on the first one on that. Vista.
So in general, dead trees, dead plants, and
There's another tree right near the roundabout where that broken fence is now. It really does impede into your line of sight in order to see into the roundabout.
And the roundabout?
Yeah,
Okay.
you really have to get out there to look.
That's a dead tree?
No, no.
It's not dead, it needs to be either,
It's just way to move them.
you can't see the cars coming into the roundabout.
Oh.
They're in the roundabout.
Oh, okay.
Coming from Mansard, if you're coming out on La Pinina, you really have to go out almost out to the roundabout in order to see on traffic.
Okay.
There's a big tree there that just is way overgrown.
Okay.
and then there's that dead one right on the even that needs to come out.
I gotta give you my cheap out there.
Midnight chainsaw.
Hey, I have one.
No,
Okay, for me, it's
Excuse me.
after the flooding,
Hold on, I'll get right with you, sir. Hold on.
yeah, after the flooding.
Okay.
I'm on the trail and I walk all the time, and after that flooding, it took a lot of the mulch out, and now I'm just starting to see dirt, and it would be nice if we're gonna be paying for all this stuff, that stuff be replaced, so it doesn't look trashy, especially all along the street, or, that creek bed or whatever that's on.
And rocks don't flow into the water.
So, okay, well, my question, so Beth addressed most of my concerns, but how do we just keep them accountable? Because I sometimes email in Public Works and they address it, right, they're really responsive, but I don't want to have to take time out of my day to continue to email from them to say, hey, the landscaper's not doing their job, and we live right next to the, I don't know what it's called.
The ditch next
The
door.
ditch.
Yeah.
It's for the endangered species, yeah.
So we-
Sorry, Beth.
Yeah, it's just completely overgrown, and I mean, they're addressing it maybe like.
So, those will ultimately be our responsibility?
Okay. For the certificate.
No? Is this part of that same storm drain system?
Are they considered a human control measure or no?
I'm not sure.
So, sorry, that's my, sorry. As long as we can be accountable, right, we're paying for these funds, it's coming out of our budget. I just want to see them be accountable. And I know Public Works is doing a great job, but we're paying for this, so I just want to see it.
So there's a couple of ways to do that, correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's a city council member that one. Call City Hall. Yeah, call City Hall and somebody from City Hall can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I blast out to our chat continuously on a monthly basis. I give a
Blast
public
it out to City Hall. Seriously, blast it out to City Hall and add a council member.
But that's what Michelle is saying, that we don't want to spend our time all the time.
I understand that, but sometimes things are missed. And I know it's very difficult to miss a dead tree or a tree overrun in a roundabout where they have to come go from eventually. But to get it back on their radar, also, you know, throw an email. I mean, I think everybody's got it. A lot of people, a lot of people are at a computer at least once a day. Shout out to City Hall or shout out to, yeah.
I mean, Don, you see my email.
Oh, sure.
Nick is he's really responsive. I hate to be a bugaboo, right, when.
Well, that's,
Ultimately, the landscape company needs to be.
but this is Nick.
Right,
This is Nick, and this is what we're paying Nick to do.
Yeah.
I also want to
It's only $5,000.
mention one thing that I don't think many people here know or. But I have taught your landscaper, your maintenance guys, not the city ones. Putting weed killer, but going out to people's homes and using water at home after their hoses. So they're coming stealing our water without asking, please.
We don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
City Hall, and there's nothing we can do about it.
I did it to my next door neighbor and I thought, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Kick him out.
yeah, I'm like, you're seeing that stuff.
Be careful.
Vicky has a question.
Well, I had a question on mine.
Okay.
Can we get to this gentleman? Sir, did you have a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just trying to find out if the funds that you were talking about and the surpluses and stuff, is that just for our Rancho Vista? Is
Yes.
that for? Okay,
Yes,
so we do have a surplus.
over $100,000. And
Yeah.
I'll get to the, we have a depreciation chart that talks about the age of your infrastructure and so forth. So I'm not quite there yet.
One last thing, and I'll let you get back. So if we have a surplus and we're taking in money every month and everything, why are the fences and everything still down around the playground area?
So earlier in the conversation, we were talking about the state of emergency and who's responsible for those fences. And FEMA has been out and has inspected those fences and is inspecting the silt and the drains themselves. And they believe that these are eligible for FEMA payments. If we get we get confirmation from them, then we can move forward. But a lot of the damage that occurred on improvements that still are responsibility of Meritage. So we've got FEMA and our city engineer talking to Meritage about what's their schedule look like. We had a complaint earlier this, I was gonna say a week or 10 days ago about just the mere safety of it. And so I spoke with Jerry from M&S who's in the room tonight. And I heard about nails and other things that people are exposed to. So hopefully Jerry and our crew have gone out and tightened that up. So it's at least safe. But we're waiting for two large organizations and neither of them are very efficient. Apologize.
Well, yeah, if we have a surplus, though, I think we should fix it and get reimbursed.
Yeah.
Well, I think.
One question, please.
So it gets accepted. Yeah.
Once they, what Don said is once they actually agree and accept it, that's exactly what he plans to do. Can't do that until they.
Right, we're confident it will be, but
I have one question, please.
yeah.
On Trailside Court, the damage that was done to the fence by a vehicle, and in talking to Brian, he said that yes, the insurance would be paying for that. And that was last October. Has a contractor been set for that?
Yes, the contract has been signed. They were out inspecting the neighborhood and confirming things this week, and they're due this start next Wednesday,
Midweek.
midweek next week.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I have a question about the cobblestone that they put between the retention ponds past the sidewalk. It looked like a quick face. I don't know if they used, a hand mixer. It just doesn't look like it was done right. The concrete is, because maybe already is crumbling. I don't know if anybody else is met, it just doesn't look like it's gonna last.
That's a good point. That was an effort to cover up that pipe that comes from the older neighborhood and that was exposed in the first storms. And I agree. I looked at it and it looks like something out of a mini golf course or something.
Is that on the list? And
No, we did not pay for that. No,
all right, thank you.
that's Meritage, but that's the quality of their work, I guess.
Yeah, what are the process, or how do we go about the ones that said yes, but
Oh, the speed bump?
speed bumps, yes, because they fly up and down our street, kind of crazy. And if that was something that was approved, is it coming out of this budget or how does that work?
So, no, they haven't been approved for your neighborhood, and typically we have to get the city engineer involved. If necessary, they would actually put, strips on the road to measure the speed and then the number of vehicles and then justify putting in the speed humps. So that-
Yeah.
We all just need to slow down.
Have there been discussions about a stop sign at Third and Trail Sign?
No, that's never been brought up before.
I know there's residents on that corner that would love to have a stop sign there. What's the process for submitting the request for that?
Well, we have the city engineer here and he's taking notes.
I have another one too for Kitano Place, having a sign outside of the intersection, letting people know it's not a through street or dead end, whatever. I would say 50% of the vehicles that drive down that street are trying to exit our community, but
Oh,
don't
really?
realize that it's a dead end.
Yes.
So we probably get double the traffic we actually. use
That's
down
something
that
we can
street.
do. That's something simple.
Yeah, that's just a.
I drive down this way.
I was thinking-
Place for a stop sign, speed trap, whatever.
Speed trap.
Yeah, it'd be nice to just. I mean.
That's a good.
What was that other street first time?
Donner and Third.
Third and Trail.
And
And
Guthrie.
Third and Trail side, you dead end street from the, yeah.
Dead end, not a through street, whatever the.
Can't hear what the people are saying,
Yeah. Okay, so
So they're talking about a stop sign on Third Street
Well, there's no-
and traffic calming and speed hump.
Signs in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, they're not stopping at the stop signs anyway.
Yeah.
I've seen them, they get angry because they're lost, and now they're speeding down the street.
Yeah.
Well, they can prove that, hey, turn the right thing that we want, but maybe they.
Oh, because they left them signs in.
The sign never got removed.
Yeah.
For the hump
It still says there's some.
They're supposed to be raised sidewalks out there.
originally.
Yeah.
But I thought they were not supposed to be removed.
I argued with the previous engineering firm about that because they put the signs in and I guess they are paint raised. I don't know. They're,
Yeah, there's always the paint.
Well, they ended up putting some of those, in, and they took them off.
oh, I wasn't aware of that.
I was doing somebody put them in. And they took them out, they just never removed the sign.
Hey, Dom, I have another question, or back to the point, and someone else's, and Leslie, when we mention about these issues that we have in addressing the city, yeah, I'm more than happy to draft up an email, but I think what we're trying to get at is being a little more proactive, meaning perhaps we could have Public Works or whoever the landscaper have a head of whoever that organization's gonna be. And I'm not saying they have to come out every time, but at least just do a walkthrough. It's kind of similar to what I do, I run and then, as I'm running, I'm looking. And so perhaps they just do one little drive through to the neighborhood and they notice a dead tree, they notice mulch missing, or oh, you know, weeds growing, they should put it and then send an email to the city on our behalf. And I think it would just help resolve that issue. Just a quick, like, a little bit of
maybe some part of the there, but.
well, no, I'm saying, you know, whether it's a landscaper or somebody, whoever it's gonna be, like, you know, a supervisor, someone that just kind of looks over the ground. So I'm not saying they have to like every day do it, but you know, when they're doing the landscaping, someone can literally walk up and down our neighborhood within 10-15 minutes and point out, hey, there's a tree that's dead, maybe we should replace it. And a good point there is, you know, constantly, yes, we have a semi truck issue with the roundabout, but I hate running in my neighborhood and I see the trees that have been knocked out and the plants that are dying, and you know, it's not being taken care of, but it's in plain sight as you drive in. So I think we can just come with a little bit more of a proactive approach to that versus.
And we as community members, sorry for the interruption, we as community members look through different set of eyes. Because we live here, because we know what we want to see, because we know where we want to drive, and we know how we want to feel. People who are contractors, no offense, don't necessarily look through our eyes. City employees who don't live here don't look through our eyes. I ask for the city manager, I text him photos all the time. Why do you see that? Why do people go and do it? Because I live here. It's a thing. So keep that in mind when you talk about proactiveness. We definitely see more things than people who are, you know, working. I'm sorry.
So,
What is the process for firing a landscape company and getting bids from new companies if we're not happy with their?
that's my last question.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to have this
We have to
conversation.
hold accountable, right?
That's my last question, but Jose, I think what we can do is we can manage the contract better. We could ask for a monthly inspection, for example.
Yeah.
We could just create a 2-page checklist and
Just goes around and says, look for.
that verifies for us that at least the supervisor's out here once in a while. I mean, they're based in Salinas, I believe.
That would be really helpful. Yeah, that would be good.
My other question is for, are they responsible for the plantings between the curb and the sidewalk, or is that the homeowners? Some properties, not my street, but they have their front yard, they have a sidewalk, and then there's another planter, if you will, for the curb. Is that the residents, or is that the?
This is a very specific one in our neighborhood.
Did you have that? Were your blocks on?
No, he doesn't.
Mine is not included.
No.
You had it on the slide. The
Yeah.
yellow and blue slide.
Yeah.
It's this one, Don.
This page,
Yeah.
the blue strips showing which streets that.
That's not 100% correct, though.
That's not correct.
There's a couple missing that we touched on.
Well,
So
and
the blue
there's this one on
ones,
Quintana.
the
also.
landscape strips. Okay, so, for instance, if you live on Vista Way and you have those, that's yours.
There's wording. There's wording that excludes some of them.
And not the mailbox.
There's wording that excludes some of them. Although, that kind of mailbox.
In the formation report?
No, the mailbox on Third Street, it's not even showing it.
Yeah.
There's wording about which way they face or some stupid in the contract. Which way, it's really dumb.
Yeah, the
There's
mailbox.
wording about which way they face, and if they face houses or somewhere else, that excludes them, it doesn't make sense.
And the ones on Rancho are there.
I know, there's wording that includes those and excludes others, It's kind of,
Let's talk about
I'll find it again. I went back and forth with DJ on this, really. I'll find it.
Okay, so this is the operating budget and how we generate reserves. And then the capital improvement program, CIP. These are the various capital improvements that we're looking at. And here's the cycle in number of years. The sound wall, the fencing would be measured in square feet and the cycle would be every 50 years. And so how much should you put aside on an annual basis? And it includes your lift station. And I just wanted to share with you while I'm thinking of the lift station, our crew is called out on an emergency basis often at the lift station because we're finding rubber gloves, we're finding debris that shouldn't be flushed down the toilet. So anything you can do to encourage your neighbors to flush the right thing down the toilet with.
We talked to your neighbors down there. A lot of people here have been talking about mop heads, really. What he's referring to is those Swiffer mop heads, the little Yeah, so it is, they've already had to replace the pump twice,
Yeah,
and those pumps are about, you need a little over $5,000 each time.
no,
When
they're
we
eight,
first moved in,
they're
we got
17.
those letters, I thought, it must be the cleaning crews, right? It's the Meritage is cleaning
Oh.
people that are in the houses before. I'm like, what resident would flush down the room? No, that's not cleaning.
We, well, it's come, he showed me a couple of booties, a couple of nitrile gloves. That tells me it's house cleaners somewhere. Because nobody else is gonna use booties. There's no more booties out here with no developer out here, so. It's gotta be somebody who has their house clean, and that's what's happening.
I'm guilty.
Oh.
Does the.
But I'm sure you're not-
How do you take them off? You're gonna put them on.
Does it come out of our reserve or where does that come out of? Like if we need to replace it or like the damage to it?
Like the pump, we replace pipe.
Right, so we have an extra on the shelf that we bought, it's about $32,000. But yeah, it would be billed to the assessment district, and at the end of the year, we would make that adjustment.
I mean, I'll talk to you because.
So yeah,
I think
it would show up on the check line. Yeah.
I
essentially
mean,
we
like
just-
I said, it may not be residents, it could be people that are cleaning homes.
I'm sorry.
Like you said, it may not be the residents, it could be people that are
And I-
cleaning homes.
After I saw that, I said, it's gotta be.
Yeah.
It's got no building, gonna really, I don't think they can, you know, but it's gotta be.
And Michelle, because you're the city treasurer, Michelle,
Yeah.
if we had to buy a big piece of equipment like that before the mid-year adjustments, then we would make that adjustment in mid-year and bring it to your attention.
Got it.
Otherwise, we'd catch up to it in April, May as we work on the budget. But this is a list of your assets there and the replacement schedule. And what's interesting about this chart in summary is that at year 5, which is where we're at now, it's only estimated in your new neighborhood that we would need only, less than $6,000. But when you get out here in the years 40 and 45 and 50, speaking to the reserve that we have, you're getting up into $1.3 million after 50 years. That's assuming that you replace all the streets because the chart told you to. So it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but the majority of your expenses for your reserves are going to happen out here 35 to 50 years, the last 15 years. And in total, over 50 years, it's only estimating 2.6 million. So when they talk about saving $48,000 a year, it's just a lot of money to save. And to what extent? Half of the assets have an expected life of more than 50 years. The current budget would put $30,000 aside for 23-24. And if we could put just 28,000 aside, we could pay for more than 90% of the assets over 40 years. So I'm not the engineer, I'm just a political science major, but to me, this makes better sense. And it means less money out of your pocket on it.
Or just the 3% legal annual.
Right, that's your annual engineer's report that comes out. Yeah, it can go up.
More than that.
I don't see anybody turn the code.
So
Yeah.
I would see a line item for maintenance, of that, like it needs to be retained everywhere.
So one thing we did in Creekbridge that was really helpful, speaking of the reserves, we had a meeting with them 2 years ago in the fall. And we came up with a budget for about $25,000. And we trimmed the trees and we repainted the gazebo there at 3rd Street. And we did a number of things that you do every 5 to 10 years. And so I think there will be a time and a place for your community when things get old enough, that's what we need to do.
Yeah, and some, a lot of the white fence is like down to this wrong word.
Well, we'll be out there working on the fence next week, so.
Not next year.
Should we email you if we see any places that needs to be
Yeah,
pre-made?
just send a photo, a selfie with you and the fence in the background.
Yeah.
Don't tell it we didn't. These two, we have to read it.
Stick around. We're gonna get those stitches back. We'll keep it posted everywhere.
All right, moving along in summary, we're almost done. The district is 5 years old now. Operational costs are much lower than anticipated in 2018. The city began charging the maximum allowable, but then we cut back for the last 2-3 years. We're receiving approximately 70% of the estimated revenue needed to fully fund the reserves. So what we're recommending this year for your district is a fund balance of about $108,000 a year from now, and that matches the reserve needed through year 15. So we're at year 5, and we've got reserves adequate to last us through year 15. So that's a pretty good comfort zone. Are we asking for suggesting a cost of living increase next year? No, what we're recommending is an increase to restore the reserves to get up to that 108,000 level, and then to break even in the district. So we're recommending an increase of 25, 36, 3.3% to each homeowner. And that's less than the CPI of 4.88% at this point. So you paid $768 for the last 2 years. And this year we're suggesting that you pay $793. The maximum that we could be billing if the 2018 numbers had stood up would be as much as $1,200 per home. So we're still well below the estimated value, but we think we should bump it just a little bit this year. So we don't get too far behind, because if we get too far behind, then we have to bump it even more next year.
At $1,200, is that maximum of like month or every year?
That could be your annual amount. What's that saying is that in 2018, when they did the engineer's estimate, they came up with $1,091. And so this is the 1,091 plus cost of living, plus cost of living, plus cost of living.
So when we hit 1,231.
I don't know that you'll hit that number.
But if we never hit that, will it just stop? It'll just. The cost of living.
There was an initial amount in 2018 that was the maximum. That maximum gets increased by cost of living every year.
Okay.
So there is no.
Showing at this moment, it could be 1231.
But we think we're going to be in really good shape. At least we can keep up a little bit this year, because we didn't have an increase last year. So. And then
How does this get decided as far as like, do you vote as a community? How does this come to fruition?
I'm working on the city's. I'm working on the city's budget, and this is a department in the city's budget, and we'll take numbers equal to these, unless we have, if I get a bunch of calls or letters or feedback tonight saying I think it should be $22, and then I can play it with the city council, who will ultimately approve your budget. That this is a result of a community meeting we held and feedback from the community that they want to pay twice as much, and they want gold-plated sidewalks. I don't know. So ultimately, the city council approves the budget.
Ultimately, we decide, and if he doesn't hear anything, he'll proceed with the $45 increase. Pretty much. But there's gotta be quite a few phone calls.
Can we make it formal where like a letter or something goes up? I feel like we went through.
I
don't remember seeing.
not that you want to eat.
So my understanding.
I haven't
was 2 years.
put those couple of steaks out just a minute ago, looking kind of turned.
And Sean went to try to improve on the things.
Well, I'm just saying, buds really,
With that increase in operating.
but I'll cook them, just come home, we have stuff here.
You want to formalize it somehow, but it's more
I'm
of a
not-
John's analysis going through as city manager, trying to balance our budget for us, right? Taking in our feedback and then looking to the city council for approval of that balanced budget.
You give this back to us like every year, every 2 years,
Every year. Oh, no, pardon me.
as far as something like this.
Oh, we didn't do it last year,
Right.
I think because I was buried and I wasn't proposing an increase, so I didn't think he'd be too upset.
Right. But generally, if we propose an increase, it would meet with us, right?
Yeah.
Or,
Absolutely.
So what I like about this and what I asked for when I was still in those neighbor, but just in those neighbor, was, hey, if you're increasing this, people would be more okay with it. You showed us how you're spending the money. I showed us. What I love is it's turned into, here's my analysis, here are the numbers, and we have a conversation about it. Maybe it needs to be more formal, less formal.
Yeah.
Make sure we have a meeting.
Yeah, for me, just me personally, in the room, I just, I know we're talking about these improvements, but we talked about it last time and I felt like I didn't really see the improvement come to fruition, right? And so I don't want to keep saying yes, 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 and then nothing happens. And so me personally, I'm at a no, because I want to see the improvement first before I hand over the money, because then I just feel like we end up here every year, yes, and more money keeps coming out, and everything still looks the same. And I do factor in that we need a
Yes.
future and for repairs. I definitely like that idea, but I would rather see the landscaper change and make sure all this stuff is changing and I'm seeing progress before I'm just signing away money left and right every year or whatever we're increasing. So I just didn't know how to actually say that and where to put my vote. So I guess it's either an email to you, right?
This will be a hearing before the council.
Got it.
And you'll have the right to come to the council and say, stop this madness or whatever.
Got it.
Jose, there's a couple things too. I just want everybody to remember that, like the tree that's overgrown. They have to basically get, and let them know before they can do that. That's why when I said I was out about my chainsaw, I'm joking, but I know the.
Yeah, no, those
So
are
everybody could consider those too.
So like for someone that's time to attend this meeting, or for someone who's not in the resourceful, right, like, how can we get notified, not myself, but like, how can those people get notified? Hey, these changes have been taking place, or this is already happening, right?
I got it. I'll let her- Oh, yeah. Oh, I did.
Excuse me, I have a question when you have a moment.
Thank you. I hear you. Okay.
So I saw today.
I just need to-
Yeah, you're in my first meeting for the vote number. Next week is proper, the next week is Tuesday.
If you Jose, would you be on our maintenance guys like them things that are busy?
I don't know, it's like a official form that says, yeah, oh, they put your comments.
So the notice for this meeting, so the notice for this meeting. Should be arriving, sounds like that's maybe, was by the name. I tried to notify people ahead of time through our social media groups.
I mean, this next door.
No, but like for some people that don't have Facebook or don't, don't have.
And I apologize, I forgot to notice that.
If you give me your email address, I can add you to an email list, but I don't, so Tina had organized the emailing list. She didn't have that to give to me in time. Or it was an email.
No,
you know, I do appreciate the fact that, a lot of you here, this room that have lived here for long, like this year, when I'm here, our second year since we moved in. To see that there is that consistency and accountability. If we are increasing things, so I agree with that, absolutely.
yeah, it's a challenge as far as getting the services and then paying because it's collected through your property tax.
Yeah.
So the city's not collecting the tax, so it's not like we can postpone your property tax bill until you're satisfied with the services.
Right now it's difficult because of the storm. It has such an impact from our neighborhood that we've kind of gone backwards before we can go forward. And I know with the FEMA and all of that, it's going to take a little while to get it back to what it should be before we can keep making improvements beyond even just the repairs from the storm.
And I hope it's more than just restoration. I hope it's prevention as well.
Yeah.
And we might want to keep in mind, we haven't actually put the landscaping out to bid. In my experience with just any kind of contractors, they don't like coming to San Juan. And, with inflation and cost of goods, the bids might be.
So I wanted to talk about that. Let me take a question from the Zoom and then let's talk about that. It's right here, so I wouldn't forget. Okay, does the Zoom have a question?
Yeah, I just have a general question, quite literally about the photo that you're showing here. So we're on 3rd Street, right across the street, and we're talking about landscaping and improvements and changes. I understand that the land next to the treatment plant is up to that builder. What about when that treatment plant is decommissioned? Will there be any changes? Like, will that fence remain there? Will it blend in more with our neighborhood? Can you speak a little bit about what that would look like?
Yes, we actually built that into the bid specifications that we're out to bid for right now. And that was to spruce up that property. We're going to leave the ponds empty, but in place in case there's an emergency. So we have the capacity to store our wastewater there in case there's a pipe that breaks down the road. So It's not gonna, one council member wanted a dog park, you know, a frisbee park, that kind of, well, we were not gonna go there, but we did build into the specs for our contractor to put up more attractive fencing and to spruce that up.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, okay, I'm double checking with the engineer. Thank you, Jerry.
I love how high the leaves have gone. I live across the street from them.
Oh,
And
dude.
it finds the, you know, up the middle, and I don't know, whatever it is, that's.
Yeah,
it's a great thing.
One thing we've seen at City Hall, as far as bidding goes, we try and rebid these things every 3 years. We're using the same contractor now, we're 5 years old and we're still using the same contractor. I'm just concerned that with the price of gasoline and others, that the price will go up. We've been keeping the maintenance costs lower than anticipated in 2018, and I'm kind of proud of that. But if you'd like to see what the bids, we don't have to accept the bids. But if I were this landscaper and I was going to reassess it, depending on whether or not I got the contract in the other 2 districts, because we might have a separate contractor in each district. So Jerry has an RFP for these services, and we can go out to bid. We can go out to bid between now and June if we wanted to, and we could see what the pricing looks like. But I'm afraid there's an opportunity for the existing contractor to up the rates.
Does this landscape that we use also do properly?
Yes,
And where else? Just those 2?
actually, I worked with them in 9 different districts, over 1,200 homes in Salinas. And so when I came, I was surprised to see the same landscaper way out here from Salinas.
But for San Juan Bautista, it's just the 2 districts that be that backs on.
Three.
What's the
Creek Bridge.
Creek Bridge also?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, yeah, I don't understand how Creek Ridge just looks fantastic on an ours. I don't know. It's like 90 for me.
So you run through Creek Bridge too?
Yeah, I do. I run every day. I run to City Hall, I run through our town, ask for somebody on third street.
Yeah, so I have one last question, since we're talking about this water treatment. Is our.
You can't compare a land beach. That big up.
You have a question?
One last quick question, since we're talking about the water treatment plant. Is our water bill in Rancho Vista the same as the rest of San Juan Bautista? And because I think our water bill it's kind of high. I see that my usage is about $55, and then the rest is a bunch of fees that add up to what, a couple $100 easily. And from what I'm hearing, that's going to continue to increase. Is there any way for us to get that under control where we're not paying so much for the water?
So the point of your water bill has 2 parts. It has the sewer flat fee, about $80, $81. And then the water is a flat fee plus how much you use, the volumetric rate. And they both had to be increased in order to pay for the improvements that are going to shut down the wastewater plant. So we improved the 5-year increase, and with the sewer, you're into your 3rd year, coming into your 3rd year of increases, and after 5, we'll have to decide if that's enough, or if we're going to increase or change that. So it's not going to keep going on forever. It's only going to go through 2027, I think it is.
So are we paying the same amount as the rest of the San Juan Bautista?
Yeah.
Yes, the whole city is, it's not, it should not be called the water bill. Most of what you're paying for, like he's saying, there's for improvements, services, sewer, things like that.
So we've received $4 million in grants from the EPA, the state, and the USDA, but we have a $10 million loan that we're going to venture into. It's a good rate, 2.5%, a 40-year loan. But that's to help us pay the debt service on that loan every year, between $350,000 and $400,000. And it's shared amongst the 800 users. And then the units of measurement in a single family house. So each single family house pays the same, but apartment building has a different rate. Commercial user has a different rate.
Said we've been paying that increase for another year,
Going into
but the contract just got signed this year. So for the 3 years that we were paying the increase for the contract that wasn't approved, where is that money? Is it sitting there waiting now to?
Yes.
Take them?
So just like these funds are protected and audited, our sewer and our water funds are called enterprise funds, and they're also protected. So any money that we collect through the rates, we have to use just for that system.
Can you, excuse me,
Put back at your question.
can you tell me, as far as the sewer
they're paying.
that has to go out for Hollister to pick it up? How far is that?
That's a 7-mile pipe, sir, that we're sending to Hollister. In what we
Okay.
call a force main.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I want to know. 7 miles. I'll dig that myself.
I thought this neighborhood would enjoy not having a wastewater treatment plant in it, yeah.
Yeah.
Better water. So we're not moving very fast, but we're doing the best we can.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so a lot of this information's on our website. We have a document center for the Rancho Vista Community Facilities District. It's on the city engineer's website. So if you wanted to find the formation report and talk about and find that detail that about what it pays for and the maps and the math that all went into it, here's everybody's parcel, the original assumptions, that's all available for you on the city's website in the engineer's department.
So can I ask one more question?
Sure.
The homes that you're gonna build in the back, are you taking into account that them helping pay for these bills?
Yes, there's a connection fee that helps build capacity. It's about $14,000 a home. So they'll be required to pay that connection fee into our capital reserve for the sewer system. And there's a similar connection fee for the water system.
Okay, so you're saying reserve, but I mean, for the cost that it's gonna take for it to happen right now. Because for them to build those homes in the back, it's gonna have to happen right now.
Right, so
Yeah.
both of the sewer and the water system were designed out through 2035 and they anticipate some growth in the city. So that growth has been anticipated. That all has to be evaluated along with the environmental impact, so. That's
All
part
right.
of the annexation process. The city has to demonstrate that it has the services available to serve the new development.
Okay.
Okay, all right, I think we.
One thing I wanted to say just to the group too, because I lived in Fairmont since 2005, which is obviously long for a lot of people, but, so Rancho Vista is our third home in Fairmont. And I just remember when Meritage and the city was trying to get our development, how upset we were putting development on here. So it's almost the same feeling like a lot of people in this room feel about, someone going up on this too. So we just have to realize that there's impacts, but there's also a certain amount of food growth that brings families, the community, or kids to our school. So, I mean, it's something to consider, because. Yeah, that's so it's fine.
That's for.
Yeah.
About, talking about,
Good night, everybody.
Call the city, send a message, everything. But when they go to open the city, the same, and the hour, the regular hour.
We're working on that right now.
Okay.
Longer. Sorry, we're working on that right now. We have a meeting on July 34th.
What? I know what I'm doing. June 2nd and 3rd, June 2nd and 3rd. June 2nd and 3rd.
Second and third.
Friday afternoon.
Saturday.
Friday afternoon and all day Saturday.
At, where?
At the library.
At the library here. City Gate is a consultant that we have hired to help us with our strategic plan and a lot of other things. One of those items is how to manage the city on a 8-hour day, keeping it open to the public. Yes, we are working on that. We should have an answer momentarily.
Okay, but I have a. The computer productive and for us in the city. I have a problem last time. Because of somebody called mobile home and video at the front of the house. So I called the city, I called Rich Brown. Left a message, nothing. So I come to the city. And I found out the patrol and I take the number, I called the number and the dispatcher called the other way. And they sent it to the officer over there and talk to the guy. and say, well, that was 4 days already, work, one of them was what? So they talk to the owner, and they take like 3 or 4 days. But my thing is, 2 weeks later, after I push in and I call, they started calling and dispatcher and meet with the guys. Because they're the same to control the whole city.
Yeah.
So after 2 weeks, he told me my call. And I said, really? And then he said, oh, I'm sorry, I returned the call. I said, I called 2 weeks ago. And you imagine it's emergency, and you're calling my call. I said, I'm sorry, I was so mad. I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, folks on Zoom, we're gonna go. Thank you for attending.
If you are in vacation or something, somebody will check your calls, you leave out or whatever, but it's not,